Shown here is a chart, is a table for several types of the phosphors, and most of them are still based on the materials using the rare earth elements. And what's wrong with the rare earth elements? Because it's rare earth elements, it means that the ratio of the elements in the soil is very rare. So in order to obtain certain amount of the rare earth elements, we have to dig out large area of the surface on the earth. Shown here is some photos. You can see the damage to the earth's surface is very severe. So the rare earth mining, refining, and disposal require high environmental cost. Therefore, lots of countries are not producing rare earth elements anymore. Although China still has the largest proportion of the distribution for the rare earth elements, it's 36%, still less than one half. However, right now the exportation of the rare earth elements, mainly from mainland China, accounts for more than 90%. So as you can see from this plot, you can see after the year of 2002, China is almost the only country that's still making the rare earth elements, and lots of the other countries do not want to export these elements due to the environmental concern. So even the obedient Chinese people right now come up to protest, and they protest the damage of the mining of the rare earth elements to their crops and their land. The Austrians also realized the importance of the rare earth element-free materials, and some people propose use the cadmium selenide. However, cadmium selenide is not good because cadmium is also poisonous. So MIT has set up a mission 2016. The reason is to reduce the use of the rare earth elements. Here's a summary of the goals of the alternative technologies proposed by MIT in the mission 2016. Decrease demand of the rare earth elements, use more common materials and wide range of the alternatives, ensure a more secure supply of the technology that was formerly reliant upon the rare earth elements, new innovations with increased efficiency and lower costs. It set up the timeline starting from this year, 2015. However, I think this timeline is too slow. In our lab, we have already developed the rare earth element-free luminescent materials for lighting ready to use. And so I can say that MIT matches MIT. One MIT is Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and the other is our lab made in Taiwan. We have the same vision. Environmental protection is as important as energy saving. The other issue caused by the blue light emitting diode is the blue light hazard. Most of UV light can be blocked and absorbed by the cornea and the lens. However, the blue light can penetrate through these optics in our eyes and damage the cells in the retina. The blue light can trigger the synthesis of cortisol. It can also have a strong impact on suppressing the generation of the melatonin. This will result in the insomnia. Insomnia is very bad for our health. It causes lots of sickness. So the Harvard Medical School also realized the risk due to the blue light emitting diodes, and they suggest to reduce the use of the blue light. So here are our objectives. We want to develop a new emission mechanisms which is environmentally friendly. We do not want to use the rare earth elements and do not want to use the cadmium either, and also develop the health-caring material to emit the warm white light. Also, our new method is very cost-effective. This production is solution-based. So here's our proposed method. We encapsulate the semiconductor nanoparticles with polymers. With these hybrid materials, we are able to have three emission mechanisms. One is from the encapsulating material of the polymers, and the second is from the nanoparticles, which is stopped with the iron metal, so we can have the emission at the orange light. And the third one is from the interface between the nanoparticles and the polymer. So this interface gives us the blue light, and the polymer gives us The interface gives us a green light, and the polymer gives us a blue light. So shown here is the emission mechanism from this composites. We excite the nanoparticles with UV light. This UV light is absorbed by the nanoparticles. Then the electrons or holes are transported to the interfaces between the nanoparticles and the polymer, and also further transport to the polymers. Because this is nano size, thus the transportation from the nanoparticles to the surface, to the interface, and to the polymer could be very fast. So we can have the three emission mechanisms. One is from the nanoparticles, which is due to the metal, the doped metal ions for the orange light emission, and the second is the green light from the interface, and third one is from the polymer. Shown here is the emission spectrum measured from this nanocomposite when we excite it with the UV light. As you can see, just with the polymer, it only emits the blue light. With the zinc oxide nanoparticles, it says UV light and also small proportion of the yellow light. And if we encapsulate the zinc oxide with a polymer, as you can see from this the blue curve, then we can have the blue light and also from the large proportion of the green light and yellow light for this. We further add the GMF nanoparticle to this composites, and then we can further expand the emission to the orange and yellow color. If we increase the proportion of the GMS nanoparticles, then the emission corresponding to the orange and yellow color is increased. In this way, we can change the emission spectrum and also change the color temperature, as you can see from this from this plot over here. Without the GMS nanoparticles, the emission is basically very cold. So the color temperature is above 6,000 Kelvin. By increasing the proportion of GMS nanoparticles, then we can change the spectrum and so the color temperature. Then the color temperature could be reduced to below 4,000 Kelvin. If we further increase the proportion of GMS nanoparticles to like a 7.2%, and as you can see, the color here, the color temperature for this 7.2% of the GMS nanoparticle, the color temperature only slightly above 2,000 Kelvin, which is very close to the candlelight. But the efficiency is much better than the candlelight, the conventional candlelight. Also, this spectrum could be changed not only from the proportion of the nanoparticles, also from the wavelengths of the excitation UV light. Shown here is if we excite with the 665 nanometers, then this emission at this wavelength is stronger than the blue light, so we can have the warm color. If we change the excitation to 385 nanometers, then the blue color is enhanced. Then the color temperature could be increased. So we can change the color temperature by two ways. One is changing the compositions of the nanoparticles. The other is changing the excitation wavelengths. The quantum efficiency could also be changed from the size of the nanoparticles and also the concentration of the nanoparticles. As you can see over here, if we use the 20 nanometers of the zinc oxide nanoparticles, then the efficiency could be more than 80% for quite a large portion of the zinc oxide nanoparticle concentration. Here is a summary of the luminescent technology using our nanocomposites. The quantum efficiency could be more than 80%. And for this color temperature around 4,000 Kelvin, the quantum efficiency could be even above 90%. And our result has been reported in the scientific reports. And because right now most of the commercially available light-emitting diodes are not in the UV region, but in the blue light, mainly at the 450 nanometers. So we further developed the nanocomposites, nanoparticles, so that it can be excited using the blue light emitting diodes. Again, we also use the 2-6 semiconductor materials. It is the red band gap within the region of the blue light absorption. And we also dope the metal ions into these nanoparticles to create these energy levels for yellow color emission. And the particle size is very important. Typically, when we synthesize the nanoparticles, the particle size is very small. When it's very small, then the quantum confinement effect will cause the absorption of the light at a much shorter wavelength. We don't want to have to make this happen. So we increase the particle size by changing the growth condition, and by changing the particle size, then we can have this absorption will corresponds to the original band gap of these semiconductors. Then we can have the light absorption occur at the 450 nanometers. Shown here is our result. We can reduce the quantum confinement effect by changing the solvent and controlling the pH value in the gross solvent. Then we are able to have the absorption peak at the 453 nanometers. Shown here is the PL using different excitation wavelengths. As you can see, at the excitation at 450 nanometers, the emission could be the strongest because it's the best absorption at this wavelength. And we also measure the quantum efficiency. The quantum efficiency is also above 80%. And shown here is the color of this material excited with the blue light. And you can see it's yellow-orange. The color temperature is only 2,240 Kelvin. We can also change the color temperature by, again, encapsulate these nanoparticles with the polymers. So we can change the color temperature from this to also above 5,000 Kelvin. And our emission peak actually is at the 550 nanometers approximately. And this emission peak is very good. It corresponds to the warm color, but the brightness is also close, it's very close to the 555 nanometers, which is the brightest lumens for the lighting. So we believe our material could give us very good efficacy and also good color temperature. So the conclusion, we have developed the polymer nanoparticle nanocomposites, and this is a new way for efficient white light emission from organic and inorganic nanocomposites. And this composite could give us 3 emission mechanisms corresponding to different colors. One is orange color, and the second is the green, and the third is blue. And by changing the proportion of the nanoparticles, we can change the color temperature. So the color temperature is tunable and ranging from near 2100 Kelvin to above 6000 Kelvin. And this warm white light emission could give us pretty good quantum efficiency. The best one is above 90%. We also developed the blue pump, the nanoparticles. The quantum confinement effect is significantly reduced by growing at higher temperature and also changing the pH value in the gross solvent. And the bright light conversion could be achieved under the commercially available light emitting dyes at the wavelength of 450 nanometers. The high quantum efficiency can also obtain, and also the color temperature is very low, only 2240 Kelvin. It is warm white color. So rare earth element-free lighting technologies are approaching the reality for environmental protection. And finally, I would like to acknowledge the support from National Taiwan University and the company of the ITI with the project number showing over here, and also the hard work from the members in our lab, and their photos are shown over here. And this work is mainly done by this one and also this one. And also this is from the company. We have the cooperation very well. And thank you very much for your attention.